I getting into the opera project started about 6 years ago. So my question in mind is what happened in 1885? Why did the Tacoma people want to drive off the Chinese? And how did it affect the Chinese community in Tacoma? And most importantly, why we should still remember it in 2020. And those are some of the questions when I started off to research this for the project. So yeah, so in this conversation, you will hear some of the work going to the collaboration, right? And Symphony Tacoma had planned a concert performance of a few episodes from the opera in last November, but due to the pandemic, the concert was canceled. So they shifted gear. They applied grant like all our community projects. And you can't really predict what's going to happen. You try everything, right? So we applied grants. So this project, rather than a live concert, we are doing video recording of some of the few singings that happening in the opera. And you will be able to hear in this conversation, the Symphony Tacoma going to release the music video shortly, I think later this spring. So this conversation you're going to hear is among the publicist of Symphony Tacoma, the composer, the librettist, I just mentioned, and mezzo-soprano, woman singer, Hai-Ting Chen. She is a descendant of the fourth generation of Chinese descendant. Her great-grandparents probably come to this country about the same period of original Chinese community that expelled from Tacoma, even though they're not really related. So, and also a video artist, Josh Davis. I believe both of Hai-Ting and Davis live in New York. So they are working together to make the music video happen. So the video, it's about 59 minutes long. I will be happy to answer any questions after the viewing, and please use the chat function as well if you'd like to type in your comments and questions while you're watching it. And I want to thank Evergreen Tacoma Annual Spring Fair Committee to hosting this viewing, and particularly thank Elaine to be the backbone for make everything happen. So please enjoy the show.
That was awesome. I really appreciated that. Oh my gosh. I remember, I think it was my first quarter, or at least my first year at Evergreen, getting to see that and see the interaction between, I forgot her name now, Mrs. May and the mayor, and to see how the two characters interacted with each other. I was hoping to get to see that again. And I can't wait. I really can't wait to get to see the whole thing.
Yeah, Annie, I just like you, I would love to see it. It's on the page for many years, right? And you know how this thing goes as all group project is trial and tribulation. And for opera, particularly raising fund, you have found a sponsor that would yeah, and that would make things gel. That's I don't know how to we're still trying, right? Basically, I've been contacting with people from Seattle Opera, but as all opera company are hurt by this pandemic, they can't put on a new opera compared to old opera like Mozart or Bizet or Carmen, and it's taking more work because existing operas tend to be, they have stage, they have costumes, so much easier. And most of the singers already know those opera because they learn in schools, so they can just come up and sing. Yeah, so but new operas take more commitment. And also they need the audience. They just tell them, Annie, you tell them that I'm going to see it if you put it on, because they never trust new opera would draw as many people as old opera.
Well, I have at least 6 tickets that I could probably sell. And I know that's not that many, but 6 tickets. I could get 6 people to go in a heartbeat. We'd all dress up in our fancy clothes and go. It'd be so much fun. Well, because I want to know the entire story from, I guess, your eyes as a Chinese person. Because me reading it is a completely different perspective than what you get out of it. There's a whole different connection there, and I liked at the end when you were like when you had her saying, you know, I'm crazy, you're crazy, you're the crazy people.
And on the other hand, Annie, I think the value of the work is not really just about Chinese community, because Chinese community in Tacoma is gone, long begun. People move on, do other things, right? And people in China, they care less about what happened 100 years ago. Most of Chinese descent don't remember the incidents anymore. But it's like Hai Ting, the singer, was saying, what is really matter is it's happening again and again to different groups, right? And right now it happened to be the Chinese community's turn, but it happened to the Black community over and over. And it happened to the Japanese community over in the Second World War, and to the Latinos. And Tacoma today, we have been the fairground for the encampment. And then we still have the Northwest Detention Center. So that's why I think this is something the human society has to figure it out. How can we not, when we have a crisis, when we have disasters, or labor shortage or starvation, trying not to scapegoat, right? And us versus them, and who is us? And it depends on which year, which community, the line drawing varies, but it's all within all of us to do these horrible things. The Chinese included. Right now, they do it to the Uyghurs in China. I mean, they are those them, they are us. So these kind of separating our group from other group, whenever there is a crisis, we don't really analyze the data. We start to point fingers first. It must be because them, right? So that is, So I think the story is worth telling, but please tell people.
So that's why I put it in chat. I volunteer for Radio Tacoma now, the local LP radio station, and it's actually something that I other people talked about it, but I felt compelled to ask you, can we interview you? Can we get you, an hour spot on our station a couple times a week, advertising this, replay the same podcast over and over?
So wait,
no, we would record once, play multiple times, to get vision on this, to get folks in the Tacoma area talking about this. It's something that I think I miss the opera. I miss going to plays. I've been itching to go to a musical sometime soon. But I think that this would be a great entry if we could, once everything opens up as it's starting to, if we could get it in somewhere.
Yeah. That would be great. I'm game to help, and I think Tacoma's story need to be told. And yeah, sure, definitely count me in. And also I think the full recording, the video recording will be released by Symphony Tacoma. So maybe that will be a moment when they have a composition and to hear at least 3 songs, not the entire opera, only 3.
Right.
To build the three songs. And yeah, and as you can see, even just that video production involves so many manpower, right?
Oh,
Singers, video productions, and composers and librettists. So it's very much just like what we are doing in Evergreen. It's a teamwork, and so yeah, everyone bringing their own pieces. Yeah, welcome to join the team. So if you interview me, you are part of the team.
I'm interested in getting the word out and getting more people knowing about it. Have you gotten a chance to hear the entire opera start to finish or see it? Oh,
there's never been produced, my dear. That's the thing. Right now, it's I hear most of the composition on the mini computer. It's not being rehearsed. Nobody would hasn't produced it. So it's all on pages, on digital files right now. Besides this, what you see the video, and then few other recordings, as you're saying, the mayor's last presentation at on our campus. Those are the scale of.
Was that even recorded? Because I don't think it was.
It was recorded later on in studio.
In
studio with the student singer. On Greg Yu's website, if you want to check on his recording, there's those recordings of those few areas that you heard on campus. Yeah, it's a how do I say, lot of labor and devotion and
passion.
Yeah, passion. Definitely.
But I'm a historic. I love history, a lot of history stuff, and it came as a huge surprise to me because it isn't something that's talked about, and it isn't something, I've heard of the internment camp long time, have heard of what happened at the Puyallup Fair, but I had never heard that something that big. And then when me and Margaret went down to Portland and checked out the Chinese community area in downtown Portland and learned that it just happened again, and it seemed like everybody is just pushing all the Chinese people to San Francisco, and I don't understand it on a empathic level. I don't understand how somebody can have such little regard for another human being or group of human beings. I don't get it. It's one of those things of, I hope he got what came to him in the end, the mayor.
Yeah, and the shocking thing for me, Annie, is you would think he was an evil person. He was naive, or he was don't know anything about Chinese cultures, and he's a sexist, not a racist pig. But the truth is, while I was doing the research, just the opposite. Actually, he was a liberal-minded proto-communist. He spent years in China, right?
Huh.
And but his experience in China actually firmed his racial prejudice, as well as he feel he's fighting for the freedom for the workers' right. That's when he orchestrated this. So Chinese people, Chinese worker, labor to him is not voter. So they are part of the imperial slave trade. That's how he interpreted. So he justified his act under the banner of liberalism, right? And workers' right. So workers' union and up and down the coast in 1882, when they have this Chinese exclusion, then which lead to Tacoma method expulsion, is really under the liberal ideology. That was just after the civil war in this country. So the anti-slavery is one of the arguments they're using. But in the end, my understanding is a lot of it is really economic interest at the play, because the Irish farmers expelled from Ireland come to US, and then they come down to the West. And then at Tacoma at that time, only 6,000 people. There are 600 Chinese. So Chinese was like a 10% of the population, and started with almost half of the population are the railroad workers. And then the Tacoma town increased, the people increased so quickly, and they're fighting for jobs. But can you imagine 6,000 people? They have to drive away the Chinese. How many people Tacoma is supporting now? And so that's how I think people's mindset. It doesn't matter liberal left or liberal right. When we scapegoating others, any ideology will do. So it is really kind of very human. I have to say, being a human beings, we're narrow-minded. We can't tolerate others. So it is interesting that if we can have this opera show in Tacoma, and I hope that will trigger people really think about, no matter which group, you're Black, you're white, you're Chinese, or you're Japanese, think about how we view others. Can we share the abundance? Can we tolerate each other? And can we make way as human race rather than
well,
whatever.
I kind of think of it like getting onto the freeway. When you merge onto the freeway, you have to give room for the cars that are in the acceleration lane to get in front of you. Right. And you and the people who are getting onto the lane need to speed up so that they don't run into you. Mm-hmm. And so there's this relationship there between those two things. If we can just make room for other people and allow other people to exist, mm-hmm. and do their thing, whatever their thing is, as long as it's not hurting others. I mm-hmm. mean, that's my prerogative in life right now. That's my current mindset is make room.
Yeah, and you have to do adjust, right? When there are newcomers come onto the scene. And in this case, is the Chinese come to the railroad, settle down there first, and then the newcomer come in trying to say, who are these people? Get rid of them, right? So for organizing, so the Chinese community, at first, they welcome the newcomers. That's why the first act was a banquet, which is, I didn't make it up. It's in a historical book. The local newspaper was saying the Chinese community has this banquet to welcome all the newcomers. Anyway, so yeah, I think your metaphor is a good one, that we have to live in a more crowded space, has more people, but if 100 years ago, this instance gave us some examples, clearly it tells us that our future would require us to do thinking and adjusting our behavior and trying to figure out a way to live peacefully together. Yeah, so and musically, it should be interesting too, to see, like Greg was saying, the Chinese music versus the Western music, how they intermingle on the stage, on the spot. was interesting. And of course, one of the personal thing for me is about the woman's issue, which it's embedded in the whole thing. I don't want to reveal too much.
Okay,
Yeah.
question. Is she married, Mrs. May?
Yeah, she's
And-
married to Mr. May, who is part of the, he is a minor role, but he is one of the characters too. So I see the mayor and Mrs. May are the colliding force. One Chinese woman, the other is Western ideology, a liberal-minded ideologist. So it was interesting. It's not one dimension, not one dimension.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean. I'm so curious. I know you can't say too much, but I want to know what happened. I mean, I know historically what happens, but I want to see how that plays out on the stage.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm down. Dr. Bacho, do you have questions for her? I didn't want to steal. I'm taking space.
Yeah.
I asked you to unmute, Professor Bacho. You have to unmute yourself.
No, I just wanted to see more on Dr. Lee's opus, and I'm very pleased, very impressed.
It's very, very good. Very good.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Bacho.
No,
yeah.
you were my chosen breakout room.
Thank you for being here.
You were actually literally the only reason I showed up to today. I told Trey, I was like, you have to leave me alone. I'm going to Dr. Lee's talk. I will be there because I didn't get to be there last year when you spoke about it. And so to get to be there this year is I'm glad I came.
Yeah, thank you. And last year is about different operas, more kind of a fantasy. This is more realistic. Yeah, thank you for being here. And opera is never, how do I say, a popular form of art, but I think it's can be very powerful when you have a historical events. It's such a at such attitude and the emotion levels and so many characters. Opera, I think, is the best form to show it because a human voice and to express human feelings. For some reason, the human singing voice for me is so expressive. You can't do it just by image or by written words. Yeah,
she did really good at you could see, so a lot of singers, they lose their emotion when they sing. She had still the passion of, she was singing what she was singing and she meant it.
Yeah.
Really good. You chose really well.
Yeah, and I like her because she's a good singer and she really do her homework. With new opera like this, she has to spend a lot of time to restudy. Versus some opera singers, they have technical is very good. They sing standard roles. They don't need to prepare to show up and have a flourish of singing beautiful voice. Hai Ting, on the other hand, is much more intellectually engaged. For example, Bacho probably can verify what she said about the native born American citizenship. So she knows it's based on a legal case before the Chinese exclusion period. So yeah, she's very learned and very dedicated, and she has beautiful voice. And the mezzo soprano and middle range voice tend to be a very hard role to cast, and so many mezzo sopranos who only ended up being a minor role in operas. So I feel that I want to do operas with mezzo sopranos as the leading lady. Yeah, so hopefully it's going to work. I wanted to put it out. Any ideas anybody suggests? How can we raise money, make opera house get into this.
I would be so interested in seeing who I could reach out to. Being part of Radio Tacoma has opened up so many doors to so many people that I didn't know existed in our community. And I want to see who I can reach out to and maybe even bring it to our programming meeting next month and see what I can do about potentially seeing who's out there, who I might connect with.
Yeah, opera can be, besides on the stage, can be broadcasted in videos, and because it's mainly about, of course, someone has to narrate about the staging, the visual aspect of it, but the main thing is the music and the words. So every time Metropolitan Opera and Seattle Opera, when they put on a show, they always has a recording and simultaneous broadcasting streamline on radios. And so for people who are can't afford opera tickets or don't have time to go to the opera house and to hear it. And of course, in the COVID time, most opera house only has stream now.
Yeah.
There's no theater.
Everybody's streaming.
Yeah. I think where time is run out. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other things?
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for the encouragement, Bachio and Annie and Elaine. And let's enjoy the rest of the beautiful afternoon.
For sure.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Bye. You can end the recording now, Elaine.